Hi, I'm Josh Lambert, a product manager here at GitLab, and I'll be walking you through our plans for the 12.6 milestone for our database team. Our database team is focused on improving, in general, database performance and architecture and best practices for improving the performance of GitLab, as well as improving how high we can scale. And finally, also helping to arm the broader team so they can work with our database more efficiently than they have in the past. Along those themes, we have a few things here that we're working on for 12.6. First, just a quick note, this is a fairly small team. We only have one engineer currently for this milestone. We are hiring. So if you are a database expert and you'd like to join the team, please do apply. And as we grow the team, of course, we will also grow and increase our throughput for milestones in the future. But for now, we're working on a handful of very important things. The first is that we're working to, in general, improve the performance and reduce the impact of our API. One thing that we have found is that our current API is based on offsets. And so you essentially will ask for page 1, it will give you results 1 through 20. You ask for page 2, it'll give results 21 through 40, etc. This can really increase the load on our database as you get to higher and higher and higher offsets. And so as you get to like offset 10,000, for example, or plus, if you're trying to do, for example, a data export of a very large project, this can really have a very high impact on the GitLab server. What we will be doing is we will be limiting offset-based pagination in a future milestone to 10,000 records by default. You can change this at a GitLab administrator level, but this will be the default to help encourage people to use our new key set-based pagination. With this, you'll be able to, rather than page by page by page, we'll be giving you pagination based on the ID of the item itself. And so rather than providing a whole lot of filtering and sorting and other options, like the full breadth that you get with the offset-based, we'll be having fewer options. However, it'll be always based on the ID, and this way we'll get constant time responses from the database because it'll be much easier query to look up. And so the model here is that you can absolutely use offset-based in the future with all of its rich options, but for use cases where you're trying to export a significant amount or everything, for example, all the projects in the list, you can use the new key set-based pagination and you'll get better performance. And so we'll have a break again in that limit to where we want you to use the offset-based and switch over to key set-based because of its improved performance. And right now we're targeting that by default at 10,000. And so here is an epic that we're working to, again, deliver on here to provide the first key set-based pagination for our projects endpoint. Right now, that's one of our heaviest endpoints, and we see a lot of traffic to it. And so this will help to really reduce the impact on GitLab servers while still providing a method for those exhaustive sets of retrieving of data. So that is the first one here. And in 12.6, we'll be looking to add improved support. We're just about done with the initial key set-based pagination in 12.5. There's a small chance it might shift in 12.6. If it does, we'll finish it up, and then we'll continue to improve it again with additional pagination options for things like order by and sorting. Moving on to a couple other areas, we'll also be looking to evaluate how we can potentially do sticky read load balancing. The idea here is that currently we randomly distribute reads across all replicas. The problem here is that on larger instances, this effectively doesn't take advantage of the fact that you have n different caches out on those different replicas. And you're essentially trying to have them optimize for their caches for the entire scope of the database. What we could do is we could, while we continue to work on sharding, take advantage of the fact that we can actually direct certain areas or certain projects, for example, or namespaces to certain replicas, and thereby we can essentially help them to have a higher chance of the results being in the cache because we're directing a smaller set of the requests essentially to that replica. And so we can do a cache optimization here with this model. And so this should helpfully reduce I/O and improve performance while we still work to drive towards partitioning as well. On the topic of partitioning, we're working on a couple major items here. The first is that we've decided to accelerate our support for Postgres 11. This announcement will be going out in the 11.5 release post, and the plan will be to effectively aim to have Postgres 11 as the minimum required version in 13.0. The reason is that partitioning is significantly better in Postgres 11 and will really help us to realize not just partitioning improvements, but all the rest of the performance improvements observations in PG11. If we don't make PG11 the minimum required default, then we can't really leverage the new features in Postgres because we really don't want to have multiple code paths for different versions of Postgres. And so the idea here is that we'll set PG11 as the new floor, and from there we can stay on a more recent cycle. The idea being is that PG11 will be minimally required in GitLab 13, and then in GitLab 14, PG12 will then become the minimum required version. And we'll essentially be staying a year off of the Postgres yearly upgrade cycle with the GitLab yearly upgrade cycle. And that will be staying reasonably within sync on a well-maintained, well-tested version of Postgres going forward. But we have to kind of do this accelerated catch-up phase here in the interim. And so we'll be doing some work here on both distribution and database to get this done. The main item here from the database side is that we need to switch from schema.rb, which is a generic configuration aspect, over to structure.sql, which allows us to then take advantage of the improved options or customized options that are available in Postgres 11. So we're doing that here in 12.6, and this will lay the groundwork for us to take advantage of these Postgres specific features. Next up, we'll be doing some optimizations to the GitLab.com database. First, we'll be checking to see if there are any unused indexes, and we can then potentially drop these. And then we'll also be working to improve our tooling and documentation to identify how to safely drop database columns from our database. And so these are things just ongoing grooming and maintenance of our database to help ensure we don't have any kind of croft lying around. So that's the topics here for the 12.6 release of database. If you have any questions, you know where to find us here. Comment on these issues. You can find them at using the label group database in the milestone 12.6. And we'd love to hear from you. And of course, we'll keep you updated as far as future updates here on the same YouTube Unfiltered channel of GitLab. Thank you very much.